This is fair warning. We are going to begin, and if not consent to be recorded, then feel free to do whatever you would like to do. But at this time, it gives me to introduce to you our next presenter for today, our presenting sponsor for the with Fuse Des Moines Chamber of Commerce. And please welcome with me, Daniel with Peld's Design Services. So Daniel, I know you have a few prepared remarks.
Yeah, so I guess I'm the other Daniel. Thank you, Mr. McCrane, for that introduction. I am one of the partners and owner at Peld's Design Services. We are a civil engineering and architecture firm located on the east side of Des Moines here. We've been around as a civil engineering firm for 50 years. I joined them a couple years ago and brought architecture to the company. So now we can offer folks, we feel, full service, full gamut of services when it comes to commercial development, whether it's a land development project or a new building or master planning or tenant build out or anything really that has to do with developing a piece of property or building a building. So and trust me, Trish, as the presenting sponsor, we know that the last time we all got together was last January, because we didn't get to see any of you in this position for the entire rest of 2020. But we do see the importance of being a part of the chamber. And so we are committed to staying that presenting sponsor for the monthly luncheons throughout 2021. And we're really excited to get a chance to see everybody, even if it's virtually for a few months, and hopefully in person before we know it. And if we can do anything for anybody, certainly let us know from a building design standpoint or land planning standpoint, and we'll be happy to help you.
Hey, thank you, Daniel. Now, the reason that we have all gathered today, besides just to see each other again, to reinstate our monthly luncheons, but we have a wonderful presentation about improvements that are taking place in Highland Park. And allow me to introduce to you our presenters today, and their accomplishments are significant. So you are going to be as impressed as I am as I tell you a little bit about our presenters. First, we have Amber Lynch with us today, the Executive Director of DSM. To Invest DSM, Amber served as a planner with the City of Des Moines for over 10 years. During her time with her primary role was to work with neighborhoods to develop revitalization plans, and her experience and commitment to building confidence in the Des Moines neighborhoods lead to the creation of the Invest DSM model in 2019. She's also worked on scape projects, regional planning initiatives, and the overall project management manager Viva East Bank, overseeing the implementation of 3 neighborhood plans and managing a coalition of 30 organizations. Amber has served as a board member for the Iowa chapter of the American Planning Association, is a member of the Institute of Certified Planners, and holds a master's degree in regional planning from Iowa State University and a Bachelor of Arts Degree from Luther College. She was named as one of Des Moines Register's People to Watch in 2020. Amber lives in Des Moines with her husband, Ryan, and their daughters. And now also allow me to introduce to you Carrie Crew. Carrie is the Economic Development Administrator for the City of Des Moines and has served in a variety of roles for the city over 8 years. Carrie is responsible for analyzing financial and market feasibility data on projects under negotiation and making property tax incentive recommendations to the city. On many of the city's urban renewal plans and Highland Park Urban Renewal Plan 20. Carrie is a member of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and serves as chair of their Government Performance and Accountability Committee. She is also a member of the Iowa Society of Certified Public Accountants and serves on their Government Auditing and Committee. Carrie graduated with a Bachelor of Arts graduating from Signage and holds a master's degree in business from Drake University. Amber, you should both be co-hosts. You should each have the ability to share your screen if you have a presentation to share with us today. But everyone, would you join me somehow in welcoming Carrie and Amber as our presenters today? So that's on screen, that's your response down below. But thank you, Carrie and Amber, for being here today.
Great. Thank you so much, Daniel. We appreciate the introductions. And hello, everybody. It's so nice to be here. We really appreciate the invitation to talk with the Chamber and are excited to share some of the great things that have been happening in the Oak Park, Highland Park area over the last year and coming soon. Let's see, Carrie, I can pull this up. And then... there we go. All right, so I think I get to kick things off here. Of course, everybody knows where the Oak Park and Highland Park neighborhoods are located on the north side of Des Moines. This particular business district is what we're going to spend a lot of time talking about today. So we're at the intersection of Euclid Avenue and 6th Avenue. And just a little bit of background, maybe context for how we began working in this place. It came out of a variety of city initiatives over the last probably 5 or 6 years. So in 2015, 2016, the City of Des Moines went through a big process to redo their comprehensive land use plan called Plan DSM. That's a citywide plan for how we want to see land be developed over the next 20 or so years, 20, 25 years. So that was adopted. And one of the things that led to was kind of a renewed focus or a little bit of a different focus on how the city did neighborhood planning work. So as Daniel mentioned, I was in the city's community development department working on neighborhood revitalization plans for a number of years. And after Plan DSM was adopted, we kind of took those goals that were in the citywide plan and said, okay, how do we make sure that our neighborhood planning efforts are in line with some of these things? So that led eventually to a new neighborhood plan being created and adopted for the Oak Park, Highland Park neighborhood. And then also kind of along a similar timeline in 2019, we decided that we also needed a better mechanism for actually implementing those revitalization plans for neighborhoods. We have a lot of great nonprofits and developers that do wonderful work in the community, but we didn't really have anybody that was orchestrating all the different pieces and parts that need to come together to renew a neighborhood's health. So we put Invest DSM in place as a new nonprofit in summer of 2019, and I moved over from the city to build out that organization. And so that's what I've spent the last 18 months doing. Shortly after that happened, the city also looked at the neighborhood plan that had been adopted and realized that there were some additional tools that were needed. And so one of the things that they put into place last year was an urban renewal plan for specifically the Highland Park, Oak Park area. And Carrie's going to talk a little bit later about what that means for the district. So we'll get into that. Just a little bit more quickly about InvestDSM. So we are a nonprofit organization. We're a little bit unique because even though we're independent from the city, we're still in some ways kind of an extension of that neighborhood planning work. And at the moment, we're funded exclusively by the City of Des Moines and Polk County. So it is all public money that is coming through our organization. With the intention of implementing these revitalization plans and strengthening these great neighborhoods that we have in Des Moines. Oak Park, Highland Park was one of 4 areas that the City Council selected to kind of pilot this new approach with InvestDSM. And so it's one of 4 places in the city that we're serving, the others being the Franklin area, which is kind of the southern half of Beaverdale, northern part of Waveland Park. We've got a section of the Drake neighborhood, the Columbus Park, McKinley School, Columbus Park neighborhood, just south of downtown. And then of course, what we're here to talk about today. And like I mentioned briefly, each one of those areas actually went through a whole planning process with city staff and with a consultant that they had hired. And so this planning process really gathered together stakeholders from each of those specific areas. So we had residents and business owners and churches and schools and others that participated to put these plans together and kind of identify what are the challenges that we're facing in these areas right now, where do we want to go with them, and then how do we get from here to there. So what our organization does then is we take those plans and, like I said, we figure out how to implement them. So to some extent, that's still playing a coordinating role. So we have a lot of partnership opportunities with city departments, but also with other nonprofit and private organizations. And we act as a funder in some cases where we're passing through funding to another entity so that they can do what they do best. We get to act a little bit like a chamber of commerce in some ways for these entire neighborhoods and act as a champion and a cheerleader, kind of building that brand, building that membership and leadership and sense of pride. And then we have a number of programs that we've been building out over the last 18 months to facilitate those direct investments back into upgrading some of these older buildings that we find in our neighborhoods. So in some cases that's housing, and I'll talk a little bit about what those projects look like. And then in some cases it's commercial projects. Just a little bit of sense of the geography. So the purple lines on this map, those are the neighborhood boundaries. And then the red and pink little square there is our special investment district. So you can see we're not covering the entire geography of both neighborhoods. And we did that on purpose because we wanted to really concentrate where we started with the impact. If you have projects scattered over a large geography, you get less impact than if you have that same number of projects scattered over a small geography. So helps us build momentum from one project to the next and start to get things rolling until the private market kind of takes over. This is where I'll let Carrie jump in. This is then the urban renewal plan boundary, which is a little bit different again from some of the other geographies we're looking at. So Carrie, do you want to hop in and talk a little bit about what this plan means for the area?
Yes, I will. Thanks, Amber. And thank you to the Chamber again for inviting us to present today and to our presenting sponsors for making this luncheon possible. So this map on the slide here is from the city's Plan DSM, which was the comprehensive land use plan that we mentioned at the beginning that was adopted by our city council back in 2016. And so you can see the large circle, the hatched circle on that map that's over the Oak Park Highland Park Business District that's designating this area as a neighborhood node in that Plan DSM. So in that land use plan, there are a number of neighborhood, community, and regional nodes that were formally designated through the adoption of that plan. And the plan defines those nodes as representing opportunities for the city over time to be able to create mixed use areas that provide for a lot of opportunity for increased housing, transportation choices, as well as reduced infrastructure and maintenance needs because a lot of that infrastructure is already in these areas. So the nodes across Plan DSM really guide our team to where the city should be focusing its limited resources and incentives due to that existing infrastructure and all the opportunities that exist in these areas. So this area was on our radar after that comprehensive land use plan update. And then following all that work, we layered in some pretty phenomenal planning work that happened through the development of Invest DSM and the 4 pilot areas. And so the plan that was created and published specifically for the Oak Park Highland Park area, that plan with CZB and Invest DSM included a recommendation in it that the city consider establishing an urban renewal plan with tax increment financing districts as a tool for us to work hand in hand with the property improvement resources that Invest DSM would also have available to work in this area. So our office spent last spring and summer preparing the urban renewal plan for this area and working with our ward council member, Linda Westergaard, the neighborhood association, a couple of nonprofit entities that have a pretty active presence in this area, as well as our other taxing entities. So Polk County, DART, and the Des Moines Public Schools were all involved in kind of the public input feedback process that we went through in the creation of the urban renewal plan for this area. So you can see the boundary outlined on the map. It was really largely driven by the land use plan and incorporating those future uses as community and neighborhood mixed use. So this map here is the exact same boundary, but it's just an aerial view. So you can see the urban renewal plan boundary extends north and south along 6th Avenue, grabbing many of the historic commercial buildings in the business district, and then runs east-west along Euclid over to the Park Fair Mall area and includes some surrounding properties around that Park Fair Mall. Next slide, please. So taking a look at the building inventory within the boundary that was selected, we have some really incredible historic buildings in this area. Of the 115 properties included in the boundary and the 84 buildings that are in the boundary, just over a third of those are 100+ years old. So some really great historic inventory. And then half of the buildings are between 50 and 100 years old. So you can see the overwhelming majority are considered historic and contribute to that distinct character of the neighborhood. So with that in mind, we focused a lot of the urban renewal plan purpose, goals, objectives in preserving the historic character of the area. We also learned a lot of important information on existing conditions through our research as we were developing the plan. Over half of the buildings in the boundary were listed on the assessor's website as having below normal, very poor, or poor conditions. 35%, nearly 35% of the frontages of the commercial buildings appeared to be vacant or in some type of transition. And there were 3 drivers of these conditions that were noted in the CZB report for the area. Those being much of the space, because of the historic nature of the building, was just outdated and unappealing to commercial tenants. Years of rents being insufficient to finance improvements. And then just really a general reflection of the modern retail economy is what was really driving a lot of those vacancies in the district. Next slide, please. So major purposes of the plan are to grow and expand the tax base over time. It's important to note that tax increment, the incentive tool that we use here, is only available if there are increases in the property valuations. So without investments and increases to property valuations, there's no funding available for us to use as incentives. Business retention and expansion is also a major purpose of the urban renewal plan. We have really great businesses in the district that have been here for a long time, and we want to make sure this is a place where those businesses can continue to prosper and grow, as well as provide opportunities for new businesses to occupy some of those vacant spaces, bring additional vibrancy to the district. Next slide, please. Some major goals of the plan, as I mentioned, maintaining that historic character, very important for this, while also allowing for new development and redevelopment within the area. Next slide, please. Some major objectives of the urban renewal plan, projects that receive incentives. There's a desire for those projects to have high quality, sustainable elements, that they provide adequate parking for the users of those businesses, as well as pedestrian connections. Another theme that we heard loud and clear in the public engagement process was the desire for projects to provide a diversity of housing options in the area that accommodate residents of all ages, income levels, household sizes, and cultural backgrounds. So we made that a focus of the objectives of the plan as well, and are structuring our incentives in a way that aligns with those goals as we have projects come forward. Next slide. Some additional objectives, expanding the healthy and active living opportunities in the area, making public transit a more attractive option for city residents. We had some really great meetings in the early planning stages with Des Moines Public Schools, as well as DART, in talking about the potential here for public art on the bus shelters in the area and engaging students in that public art process. So I'm really hoping to see that those efforts come together over time in the future. I think it would be really exciting. Promoting and expanding the public art and beautification efforts of the district. I'm always amazed every time I head over there for, my Highland Park bakery donuts and my coffee. It seems like there's always new murals and public art popping up, and it's just got a really great vibe, and we want to see that continue. And it was a priority of it came up in almost every group that we met with in putting this plan together. So that's also a goal identified in the plan. And then lastly, prioritizing parks and trails, signage and wayfinding. We have really great connectivity in this area to bike trails. And as it was mentioned earlier today, a lot of great investment occurring in the Riverview Park area too. And so we really want to feature those community assets and help link the business district to the park and the park up to the business district. Next slide, please. Okay, and this slide is the Invest DSM Special Investment District boundary. So I'll kick it back over to Amber to talk about that.
Great. So this just shows the dots on the map are just projects that were completed last year. So the red ones, you can see we've got quite a cluster in the business district. Purple ones are some properties that Invest DSM has purchased either for rehab or for new construction. And then the orange dots are some of the residential projects that I'm just going to talk about very quickly, and then we'll flip back over to the commercial district. So when Invest DSM was put into place, it was primarily to focus on the health of the residential blocks in these areas, with the acknowledgement that there was also some work to do on the adjacent business districts. So the first set of programs that we really focused on putting together were aimed at helping existing homeowners invest in their properties. A lot of people in Des Moines, we all have older homes. I live in Des Moines, I have an old house, and it's easy to have deferred maintenance over the years, and sometimes harder to feel like you want to make that investment to do those upgrades. So the first program we put into place was our Block Challenge grant. It's a matching grant program focused on exterior improvements. So we're really trying to get at the curb appeal of properties. But the catch is that you have to apply as a team of neighbors. And so in Oak Park, it's just a minimum of 3 neighbors kind of within visible distance from each other that need to apply together as a team. They each get to work on their own individual project, so they don't all have to do the same thing. But they do have to apply together and then complete their projects within 90 days. And then they get up to $1,500 or $2,500 from us towards that project. So that was one that we kicked off last year, and across our 4 special investment districts, it was really successful. And then the second one that we put into place was for larger homeowner renovation projects. So here again, one of the challenges that we're looking at overcoming is sometimes the cost to do a major house renovation. If you have a lot of either structural or just rehab needs, sometimes the cost of that can be more than what the property will actually appraise for currently in the neighborhoods. And so it can be hard to borrow all that you need to get it done and get it done right. So that's one thing that our grant funding comes in to help with that financial gap. But then, we're also trying to help owners feel confident that if they make an investment in their house, they're going to get a return on that in the future. So we have grants for those as well. And we currently have a number of homeowners in the Oak Park area that are moving through that program. This is just one example of a block challenge project that put in, we've had a lot of new retaining walls, new driveways, new front doors, redoing front porches, in some cases, all new siding and windows on the exterior. Sometimes it's just a small landscaping project. But some of the benefits of that have been neighbors are getting to know each other a little bit better. They share contractor information. And when everybody's done, the street has just a little bit of a refreshed look to it. The other thing that we're working on is, in some cases, Invest DSM will buy a property. We also have a program for single family developers where a developer purchases a property and then either builds new construction or does a rehab on the existing house. So we do have some things like that available. And then another thing that we're working on is a rental rehab program so that some of our rental properties, we can work with them on making some of the bigger scale capital improvements that they need to make that sometimes are, again, more expensive than they can afford. And that rental rehab program may be another tool that we can use to help preserve affordability in some cases as well. So that's residential, but I think what's been most exciting to see over the last year is that despite the pandemic, despite kind of all of the challenges that 2020 brought along with it, the business owners in the Oak Park Highland Park Business District have just been ready to make investments in their properties and to open new businesses and to really kind of plant their flag in this place. And so we've kind of all partnered together to support that, the city, Invest DSM, and others that we'll mention soon. So we so far have committed funds to 9 different commercial projects, and you can see the list there of the ones that either got underway or were completed in 2020. And when I was putting the numbers together for this, it kind of actually blew me away a little bit too. That is a total of over $8 million of investment that's going into this little business district right at the intersection of 6th and Euclid. And so that's been about $1.5 million of Invest DSM funds. We've had some really great partnership opportunities with the City of Des Moines, as well as with Neighborhood Development Corporation. And I think I saw Abby pop on the call. So if we run into questions on details, she can chime in. But Neighborhood Development Corporation is another nonprofit that has been a longtime partner of the cities in particularly in commercial district revitalization. And so they've really taken kind of adopted this area over the last year, 18 months, and come alongside existing business owners to say, you know, how can we help figure out how to make your project work? So we've done a whole variety of things on retail spaces, everything from code upgrades. So putting some of those high cost necessary things like new electrical systems, accessible restrooms, grease interceptors, all of those costly things that businesses need in order to be open. We've also done some exterior work, facade work, and then we have a few complete building renovations that are underway as well. And more coming in 2021. So we continue to see strong interest in this area, which is really exciting that momentum continues. We're also working with a group of the business owners talking about parking solutions. How do we help people find the parking that's already there? How do we make some changes so that parking is a little bit easier? And then keeping an eye on how we beautify the public realm and some of the other things that Carrie mentioned were goals of the urban renewal and other planning efforts. So we have a bunch of pictures to share. Of course, some of you who are familiar with the Highland Park hardware store know that Bill Wheeler decided to retire last year. And has kind of scaled his business back to be screen and window repair. He wanted to put new awnings on his building. He's done a lot of work to the building over the years, but he wanted to put new awnings on. So we had a grant with him for that. And then also some funding with the Slow Down coffee shop as they opened to get some of those code upgrades done that I mentioned. So new electrical, plumbing, and restrooms. And so that's been an exciting addition to this area. We also had, oh, that's a weird designed slide that PowerPoint did for me. We also had, this was a project that Neighborhood Development Corporation really took on. So if anybody knows Dan Koenig, who owns Ichi Bike in the East Village, Dan purchased this building. The brown picture in the middle is what it looked like before. And he worked with NDC to do a full facade renovation on it. And so the Des Moines Mercantile is now in the north space with the green frontage, and they're just doing a great business. And then Dan has the red and yellow side over here and is looking at, right now he's using it as an office and some storage, but he's got some plans for bicycle related things coming down the road. And then his wife, Amy, the neighborhood association commissioned her with some dollars from Invest DSM to do a new mural on the north side of that building as well. So that's been a great addition. As you enter the district from the north, this is one of the first things that you see. And Amy worked with the neighborhood to identify some of the visuals that are featured within that mural. This is one where this is just a little bit to the west of the intersection at Euclid and 6th. It's a 10-unit apartment building that a private developer purchased, and it had been sitting vacant for a number of years, and was one of those that, again, it just needed everything, really. It was a full gut renovation. So he spent the last year working through all of that, and now we have 10 units that are available and for rent. There were a number of challenges to work through with this building, but I think it turned out really nicely. There's studio units. There's only one bedroom in the building, so they are a little bit smaller units, but they're renting at around $700 or below. He's got a couple of units set aside at a lower rent rate to be more affordable, but still, compared to the same unit that you might find elsewhere in the community, these are still at pretty affordable rents. So that's been an exciting project to get apartment units close to the business district occupied again with people who will hopefully work and shop and dine in the area. Carrie, do you want to talk about the bakery?
Yeah, sure. So summer of 2019, almost 2 years ago, we learned that the Highland Park Bakery was going to be closing, which had been a Des Moines staple in this business district for over 70 years. So that was really hard news to read, and we were super lucky that shortly after that announcement, Tracy Adamson had reached out with interest in buying the business and wanting to reopen it in the same location. So we were really excited to work with her and find a way to make this happen. Because of the regional draw that this business has and the vibrancy it brings to the business district. It's such a critical piece of the businesses here. So we wanted to work together to find a way to keep this business here and keep it going. All of this was happening long before the city was, we had barely scratched the surface in starting the urban renewal planning work, and that typically is going to take anywhere from 6 to 9 months to get all the research and public input and everything necessary to really launch a new urban renewal plan. And so we got creative, and we got a lot of partners together to brainstorm on this and find a way to make it happen. We were really lucky to have the leadership of Abby Gilroy with Neighborhood Development Corporation, who was able to come up with a wonderful structure where it allowed the new owner to purchase the business and then provide funding streams for NDC to be able to acquire the property and provide all the renovations that were desired and needed for the business to continue and be there for the long term. And so Invest DSM and the city came into the picture with some loan funds. We didn't have tax increment grants that we could use yet, as I had mentioned. And so we came up with, on the city side, we came up with a 3-year no interest loan to be able to get the business there, get it stabilized, get it running before the city would expect to be paid back those loan funds. It was really just a great public-private partnership to be able to retain that business, expand the jobs in the district, and continue getting those delicious baked goods, which I would say are just as good, if not better, than they've always been. And so it's been a major transformation of the space. If you could see the before and after pictures there on the slides, just incredible work from NDC, and then really grateful to have the help of Invest DSM as well as the city come together to find a way to make this one go before all of our plans were kind of ready to go in this area.
Yes.
I don't know, Amber, if you have anything to add from Invest DSM's perspective on this one.
Well, I think I would just echo that we had to do some creative thinking around this one. So we also have a loan more for the purchase and renovation of the building with NDC. And so thankfully we were able to figure out how to structure that. And some of what we're doing is we are You know, to some extent, we're loaning funds based on the future value of the property. I would say that property values in this area are a bit depressed, or have been a bit depressed for a while. And so one of the things that we're trying to do with this investment is bank on the fact that several years from now, the property will be worth a little bit more than it is today. And that if we can just make these improvements, we can start that path moving forward. So, but it's been great to have the bakery open again. I think the business is going well for them from everything that I hear. And Tracy owns a couple of other buildings in the area. And so it's been good to work with her on one project, and hopefully she has an appetite for another one down the road. We're also working with NDC on Chuck's Restaurant. So I'm sure those of you familiar with the area and familiar with Chuck's know that they've been closed for renovation for a few months now. And this is another one where it's a complete building renovation, not only for the restaurant space, but also for the apartment units that are in the upper story that have been sitting vacant for years. So this was another one that NDC figured out how to structure creatively with the Chuck's Restaurant owners, and then Invest DSM and the city are also partners in this project. And it's also a bit of a combination of grants and loans, and NDC has some of their own funding in this as well. A lot of structural issues to deal with in this building. There had been a roof leak that had been around for quite a while, and so has caused quite a bit of damage. So unfortunately, that mural on the north side had to be removed so that the wall could be replaced. But I think Emily has plans to do something new there. And they're getting, you know, a major overhaul on the interior as well. So these are just a few pictures, but you know, new mechanical systems. Like I said, the upper story apartments are being fully renovated. So again, those will offer another living space for people in this area. And then the restaurant is getting a bit of a facelift, and the kitchen, a lot of things are being replaced in the kitchen too. So it's been an evolving project, and hopefully by midsummer, they'll be closer to reopening.
Yeah, I would just add on this project, on the Chuck's project, that's exactly what we wanted to see in the goals of the urban renewal plan. We have housing opportunities here that weren't being utilized because of the condition of the building, and being able to put those, put the second story housing into use is just a great renovation project. It achieves the goals that we had. And we were really excited from the city standpoint to have a willing partner to help us on those affordable initiatives as well. So one of those units is committed to be retained at affordable rates, which will be at the available to those households earning 80% of the area median income or below. And so just having strategies in place to make sure that as values grow and rents start to grow over time, that there are affordable options in the neighborhood. So we appreciate the willingness to work with us on those efforts too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe just another note, a lot of these, especially the bigger projects, they're projects that really can't be financed on the private market. So the building owner can't go to the bank and just get a loan to do this entire project. It was just part of the reason why we have the grants and the loans and some of the other incentives through the city and Invest DSM and NDC. Yet we all kind of have a vested interest in trying to make sure that, you know, a place like Chuck's, which has been an anchor in the neighborhood for a really long time, a place like the bakery that's been an anchor, a staple in the neighborhood for a really long time, that they get to stay and operate and be as successful as they can. So these are some upcoming projects that are just in the very, very beginning stages, but there's been some newspaper articles out there. So I feel like the cat is out of the bag a little bit on these, but these two buildings are on the southern corners of the 6th and Euclid intersection, and have recently been purchased by Benchmark Real Estate Group. They're looking at doing historic rehabs on both of these buildings. the 3-story apartment building on the corner. That will end up with 14 apartment units in it, and then 2 retail bays. And it's got some really fabulous built-in woodwork, some really cool Murphy beds that are unique features of this building. But it's also been a little bit neglected for a while, and it's another one that has a roof leak that's caused some damage. So the renovations here will be substantial. And then the commercial building on the other side of the street, right now it's kind of chopped up into 10 commercial bays of various sizes that don't make a lot of sense. And so I think they're planning on scaling that back to about 4 or 5 retail bays. Again, the entire facade will get re-tuck pointed and have a facelift. Windows will be replaced. And so that will be a full renovation that's coming as well over the next couple of years. And Carrie, I don't know, do you want to say anything more about these?
Yeah, sure. So on the mixed use project, again, here we had a great willing partner that was willing to do the affordability for a portion of those units. So you'll see that in this project as well. And they are also seeking federal and state historic tax credits for the projects. And so all the work that's being done for these 2 projects will follow the Secretary of Interior standards for historic rehabilitation. So we know we have great confidence that the renovations that take place will be very respectful of the historic integrity of the buildings. So we're really excited to see that and have all those tools kind of work together to give us the best outcome possible here. As Amber mentioned, taking on buildings like this, I mean, far too expensive due to the deferred maintenance, and far too risky for the private market to bear these types of projects on their own. And so that's where partners like Invest DSM and the city come into play to try to make them a go. And by the looks of some of the photos I've seen on the interiors of the buildings, it did appear that we were close to losing these buildings. And so I feel very lucky. They're so prominent on the 6th and Euclid intersection there that we're able to have great development partners to be able to help us save these buildings and have them as part of our community for the long term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Okay. So I think that's where we ended off, unless you've got any closing comments, Carrie, but otherwise, I think we're happy to take whatever questions you all have. I've seen some popping up in the chat, but I haven't actually paid attention to them as we've been talking.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Amber and Carrie. Great presentation. This is very exciting to the developments that are taking place up there. And personally, I'm going to say I used to live just kind of around the corner from this district, so I'm excited to see some of these buildings being renovated and updated. We do have a few questions here in the chat. I'll see if I can scroll through some of these. One question about the territory maybe that's being looked at. There's a question about whether this gets into Boyd or Hull streets.
We don't with Invest DSM's area. I don't think the urban renewal plan does either, Carrie.
No,
I don't think we go quite that far east.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. Another one here maybe about a contact for flat Highland Park.
Oh, sure. I might have to send that as a follow-up because I'm not sure who their leasing agent is.
Sure. Yeah. And Shar, I think that was your question. If you just want to reach out maybe to Amber or Carrie.
Yeah, that would be great. Just reach out to me and I can make that connection.
Sure. Okay. Let's see. Another, there was some excitement around the flats and some of the affordable housing there. Darwin's even offering, are you offering interviews on the radio station? Is that what you're offering here to share some of this information?
Yeah, definitely. So, oh my God, I'm blown away with all these great information that you guys are giving us. And I think the Hispanic market, the Latino market, would love to hear about all these opportunities out there and everything that is being done, you know? I mean, I know a lot of our community works in this type of stuff, renovating stuff. and
Yes.
investing in that. So I would love to have you guys for an interview at the radio station whenever you guys have time.
Okay.
Always welcome.
Okay. Yeah, just send me an email and we can figure that out.
Excellent, Amber. Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Wonderful. The French Way Cleaners building, what are the early pictures that you had? Any update on plans for that building?
Carrie, I don't know if there's anything from the city. So I know that plans are being put into place, still in preliminary stages. There's a lot of course, being an old dry cleaners, there's a fair amount of environmental factors in the site. And so last I was aware, it was going through some of those studies on the environmental side of it. And then they're kind of figuring out what's going to be feasible. So the owner is working towards a project. We just don't have a timeline on it quite yet.
Understood. And another question here at the end, is there any way that we can follow up with updates, progress on some of these projects, maybe a social media site or any other way we can continue to be informed?
Yes. So Invest DSM, we're on Facebook. We just started an Instagram account, so not a lot of material out there yet, but I know that's something that my staff is looking to grow. So you're welcome to follow us in either of those places, and we try to post regular updates about what's going on in this area as well as our other special investment districts. And then Carrie, I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think Invest DSM, since they're actively involved with it being one of their 4 pilot areas, they're probably going to have the most traffic on their social media pages versus the city's broad ranging social media posts on everything about the city. So I would probably point you to Invest DSM's social media.
All right, wonderful. And do you have an Instagram handle number? Maybe you could drop into chat.
Yep, I'm just putting it in the chat right now.
Wonderful. All right. Another great question here too, with all this fun stuff that's happening in this district. What is the one big project that you have your eye on that you would think, if something could happen there, that would be a huge win for us?
I think mine has actually been the 3-story building that Benchmark just started working on. It's on such a prominent corner right there, and was really becoming endangered, as Carrie mentioned. And so I'm so glad that we're starting to see something move forward there. And then French Way is probably my number 2, even though it's outside of our special investment district. I think those 2 are really great anchor buildings for this area.
Yeah, I was going to say the French Way Cleaners. I love the character that building brings, and I'm really excited to see something happen there, whatever it ends up being.
Good. We're getting some great comments here. I know that everyone who's been on this call with us has really appreciated the update and all the work that's happening in this district. So anyone else, any other question? Watch the chat, but any other questions from any of our attendees? And some people may still be typing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, yeah. Well, Amber, thank you so much for this presentation. This has been very informative. It's very exciting to see the investment that's taking place, seeing some of these historical buildings being brought back. This is wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing and for being with us here today. Thank you for the investment of your time. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys for the opportunity.
Oh, yeah. Trish, I'll let you come back on, and I know you have a few announcements and things that you'd like to share with our membership.
No, just thank you, everybody, and thank you, Carrie and Amber. That was incredible. I've been watching that area, and wow, that Highland Park Bakery. I'm just shocked at it's beautiful and great. So anyway, the only thing what we did was we did pull 2 names to win a $25 gift card from Barada's. So Phyllis Wheeler with Central Bank. Are you still on the call there, Phyllis?
I am.
Oh, there you go. So we'll get you a $25 gift card to Baradas. And then Kat Hutchison, are you still on the call there?
Yeah.
There you
Wow.
go. Well, you got. So again, thank you again. As I mentioned, if you weren't on the call earlier we were able to give a check for hundreds of dollars to Baradas. So thank you for that. Stay tuned for the next luncheon. We've just got a couple things coming up. So of course we have our monthly nonprofit forum that's coming up on Thursday. We do have our Feed Your Mind, which is our lunch and learn. Just so you all know, our events have been going on. They've just all, I'm going to say the P word, they've all pivoted online. And again, we're working on bringing them back. But the Feed Your Mind event is on 3/24, March 24th. We have our women's mentoring event. So this is an annual event that is typically in person, but it happens with Des Moines Downtown Chamber and Des Moines Westside Chamber. So that's really exciting. We've got 6 wonderful women mentors, and then we have Jackie Schmeling with Channel 5 is going to be emceeing that for us. And then we are doing our annual celebration, not to be confused with our annual dinner, which we couldn't have this year, obviously, due to the size, but we didn't want a year to go by without honoring and giving the awards to so many members that have just the stories that we have heard throughout the year and the stories they have to tell. So we will be doing our awards and we're just calling it the annual celebration because it will be online, but that is on April 29th. So stay tuned for that. Registration will open soon. But other than that, thank you again. Thank you to our sponsors, Pelds, McCrane for handling this. And we'll see you all next month.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Brian.
Is there a way we could get a copy of the video?